landlocked at the heart of Asia. Mongolia is a vast country, stretching over 1.5 million square kilometers between Russia and China, the birthplace of a once great and powerful empire. Guarded by mountains to the north and giving way to a vast desert in the south, these lands are home to some of the toughest and most adaptable animals on Earth. Trapped on a mountain plateau over 1,500 meters above sea level, grey clouds are all but banished. This is the land of the blue skies. Mongolia is at the mercy of a mountain range thousands of kilometers away. The Himalayas cast a rain shadow that stretches across China and extends into southern Mongolia. Rain clouds struggle to get past this nearly 9,000-meter high barrier. And as a result, over a third of the country is held hostage by the largest desert in Asia, the Gobi. Literally translating as waterless place, the Gobi Desert receives less than 20 centimeters of rain a year. The Gobi covers an area nearly twice the size of Texas. But desertification means the desert is expanding far beyond its borders, claiming over 3,500 square kilometers of East Asia every year. The Gobi's elevation means temperatures here fluctuate wildly throughout the year, reaching highs of over 45 degrees Celsius during summer, plummeting to minus 24 degrees in winter. Despite these conditions, Mongolia's desert is host to many weird and wonderful animals, as unique as the country itself. Every living creature found in the desert is specially adapted to the arid landscape. But that doesn't make living here any easier. These extremes make the Gobi one of the harshest desert environments in the world. In November, winds from Siberia in the northeast bring the Gobi Desert its main source of water in the form of snow. But like everything in the desert, the bitter winds drive the snow onwards, never allowing it to settle for long. Mongolia is a nation of nomads. The Bactrian camel is perhaps the wildest and rarest of them all. In summer, their movements are restricted to traveling between watering holes. But in winter, snow allows them an escape. But it comes with a catch. Eating too much snow could be fatal. So they have to eat small amounts constantly throughout the day. They've evolved to cope with the limitations of life in the Gobi. Their kidneys and intestines reabsorb water far more efficiently than other mammals. As they exhale in the cold air, water vapor is trapped in their nostrils and reabsorbed. So water is never wasted. The camel might seem out of place among snow, but it's been discovered that these incredible animals may have evolved in the tundras of the high Arctic. Everything about them that seems ideal for the desert could also be an adaptation to snow. Their feet are made up of two fleshy toes which flank a wide hoof, preventing them from sinking in either sand or snow. On the bottom of their feet, a pad of fat protects them from either extreme heat or the freezing cold. 3 eyelids and 2 rows of eyelashes prevent sand and snow from entering their eyes. Not 1, but 2 humps store fat to help the camel get through leaner times. The camel, it turns out, is more mysterious than it gets credit for. All over the world, camels are often referred to as ships of the desert because of their ability to make extraordinarily long journeys with very little resources. And these skills are still very much in use. During winter, camels are constantly on the move, wandering vast distances in search of food. This herd is made up of females with young, led by an alpha male. With their seasonal freedom comes the most exciting time for a male Bactrian camel. The rutting season. This male's bizarre stance is an attempt to attract a female. He uses his tail to spread his masculine scent. His distinctive cologne also serves to intimidate bachelor males who might want to muscle in. Hopefully, it will be enough. Bactrian camels only fight as a last resort. Energy is a precious resource, better spent on fun with the females. Despite the apparent lack of interest from the ladies, it's still early in the season. It won't be long before the hard wooing pays off. By late April, most of the females have given birth to his offspring. Now that summer has almost arrived in the desert, mysterious animals wake from a winter of hibernation. As night falls in the Gobi, the temperature drops. It's cold enough to send many of the desert's animals underground. But the darkness entices many more curious creatures out of hiding. An owl uses the cover of darkness to hunt. Beetles conduct a standoff. All over the world, nighttime in the desert is ruled by predators specializing in stealth, and their prey trying to remain unnoticed. But not everyone here is a confident killer. There is at least one creature in the desert who still isn't quite used to things that go bump in the night. At this time of year, young long-eared jerboa are experiencing their very first few weeks alone without parental protection. Like most jerboas, these animals usually live alone and are entirely nocturnal. But nightlife above ground takes some getting used to. Their long ears are incredibly sensitive to sound, a useful skill with so many predators. Being a bit jumpy pays off around here. Long-eared jerboas are so skittish, they're rarely seen in the wild, and when they are, it's only for a brief second before. they're the most evolved of all jumping rodents. Their back legs are 4 times as long as the front, enabling them to leap almost 3 meters into the air. But they usually save those sorts of heights for big emergencies. After calming down, she can concentrate on the task at hand. Now that Mom's left, this female is having to learn how to be entirely self-sufficient. These jerboas are so good at hearing they can even pick up the sound of sleeping insects. But catching them is a little trickier. Insects are pretty much all long-eared jerboas eat. Their bounding stride allows them to travel long distances to hunt without expending much energy. With each success, her skills improve. Jerboas don't drink water, so this meal provides her with all the liquid she'll need for another few days. In Mongolia's parched desert, this is a life-saving adaptation, proving that necessity really is the mother of invention. At this time of year, the nighttime only lasts a few hours. It's a small window for catching dinner in the dark. Long-eared hedgehogs make the most of it, wandering over 8 kilometers a night in search of food. This male has a voracious appetite, but out here the options can be limited. Long-eared hedgehogs have evolved to be able to withstand long periods of famine. If he had to, this hedgehog could go over 2 months without food and water. But hopefully, that won't be necessary. Like most hedgehogs, he has limited eyesight, but what he lacks in visual abilities, the long-eared hedgehog more than makes up for. His long ears are an adaptation to the desert. During the day, they radiate heat, but by night, they provide him with an acute sense of hearing, which alongside his remarkably keen nose, give him excellent foraging abilities. These hedgehogs are omnivores, but they prefer their food alive. Despite their cute looks, they are ferocious assassins. But he might have competition. The desert is home to a vicious night crawler. Scorpions are adaptable arthropods and have been around for hundreds of millions of years. They are nothing if not survivors. With a tough exoskeleton, there is no need for bones. Instead, they have armor for skin, making them no easy meal. Scorpions are ruthless killers, carrying a menacing venom-injecting barb at the end of their tails. This spur is fueled by 2 glands bursting with a venomous neurotoxin used to paralyze and kill unfortunate prey, or any animal brave enough to take it on. This scorpion is more than ready to fight for its life. Despite the scorpion's best attempts to sting his way out of being eaten, the hedgehog takes the hits like a seasoned pro. The pain is worth it for a meal in this desert. Who knows when he might eat again? The fight is over in seconds. For the hedgehog, the scorpion is packed full of protein and will sustain him until the next battle. As the sun rises in the desert, the Gobi's midnight marauders retreat to underground lairs. But there are new horrors on the horizon. This desert dweller has been an enigma to science since it was first discovered. All over the world, this creature is the stuff of legend. It has 2 black beady eyes, and 2 sets of terrifying jaws are used to tear their food apart. Camel spiders are even able to chase down prey bigger than themselves at speeds of up to 16 kilometers an hour. That's as fast as the average man can run. But the camel spider is misunderstood. Despite its name, this is not actually a spider. In fact, they're more closely related to scorpions. But even so, the camel spider is unlike any other invertebrate in the world. They diverged from their arthropod cousins over 200 million years ago, evolving into a distinct order known as solifuges, loosely translating as those who run from the sun. For a desert animal, an aversion to the sun is more than a minor inconvenience. Camel spiders earned their title when explorers noticed them fleeing from underneath camels, mistakenly believing the camels had somehow fallen victim to the spider's jaws. All they were doing was hiding from the heat. In the absence of shade, they dig burrows into the ground, excavating the sand with industrial efficiency. Long legs double up as construction tools, methodically shoveling sand and gravel before huge jaws systematically plow the debris out of the way. It's a remarkable process, and it's easy to see why these creatures have become folklore legends. But aside from the camel spider's unusual quarrying skills, their mouth-bound machinery makes them formidable predators. Their giant jaws aren't venomous. Instead, the camel spider uses their extraordinary strength to latch onto its victim with a vice-like grip. Their jaws are so strong that in some parts of the world, these spiders were nicknamed hair cutters. Legend has it they would seek shade in the long hair of women, becoming entangled and forced to cut themselves free. If true, this would be a horrifying ordeal for both woman and spider. The fine hairs on their legs and body are used to detect prey, picking up the tiniest vibrations. They rely on these hairs more than their eyesight. A sand lizard would make an excellent catch. They're not as fast as the camel spider, but their size makes them ambitious, rewarding prey. But this lizard's no fool. Luckily for the camel spider, not all lizards are as savvy. A younger lizard is an unfortunate victim. It's the camel spider's jaws that are their primary weapon. After seizing a victim with a vice-like grip, they turn flesh into a digestible pulp with their jaws. It's a gory but essential process, and probably the real reason these creatures are so notorious. As the day advances in Mongolia's desert, the sun stretches across the landscape, tailed by winds that whip the plateau. In spring, they can reach speeds of almost 100 kilometers an hour, picking up sand in the process blasting any and every rock that dares stand in their way. The sandstorms they create can often be seen from space. These winds have played a major role in shaping the landscape of the Gobi. But in the canyons on the southern edge of the desert, it's a very different story. Few birds are as formidable as the bone-eating bearded vulture. "80% of their diet is made up of the skeletons of other animals. Dropping the bones from great heights shatters them into more manageable pieces, which are then swallowed whole. The bearded vulture's stomach is so acidic that it can digest bone in just 24 hours. It is the only bird in the world that specializes in this gruesome diet of marrow. They are one of the largest old-world vultures, an intimidating gatekeeper at the edge of the desert. As the sun warms the Gobi, the bearded vulture takes flight on rising thermals. From such lofty heights, they can easily find food. To them, the Gobi is nothing but a large graveyard. And from here, it's easy to understand why. From above, the vast emptiness of the Gobi is obvious. The sand stretches over the fifth largest desert in the world, 20 times the size of America's Mojave Desert. The view is nearly always uninterrupted. Mongolia is known as the land of blue skies, with 250 cloudless days a year. Over 3,000 kilometers away, heavy rain clouds struggle to cross the nearly 9,000-meter-high Himalayas. The southern side of the mountain range is doused in water as the clouds ascend and are forced to drop their cargo. By the time the winds reach the Gobi Desert, the air is dry and offers little in the way of moisture. But that doesn't mean the Gobi is barren. The grassy plains at the edge of Mongolia's desert are home to a surprising sprinter. Goited gazelles are members of the antelope family, more typically associated with Africa than the East. But these are desert specialists, spanning across the breadth of Asia, from Iran in the west to the eastern edge of Mongolia. They extract water from the plants they browse, barely ever having to drink. Their narrow jaws have rows of incisors, so they can easily pick only the most nutritious growth. Even their coats have been designed with heat in mind, reflecting the midday sun. If that wasn't enough, they can also tolerate an increase in their body temperature by as much as 5 degrees Celsius. Humans, by comparison, would die after an increase of just 2 degrees. If all else fails, they can cool down by rapidly panting through their nose. But heat isn't their most deadly enemy. Goited gazelles are now almost endangered. Both wolves and humans hunt goited gazelles, so it's just as well they can run fast. They sprint through the Gobi at speeds of almost 50 kilometers per hour. True athletes of the desert. Surprisingly, they're not the fastest animals here. That title goes to the humble camel, capable of speeds of up to 65 kilometers an hour. But they rarely feel the need. Mongolia is home to an estimated 250,000 domestic Bactrian camels. Though they might look the same, recent science has discovered that these domestic camels have been managed by humans for so long that they're genetically different to their wild counterparts. For centuries, camels have been depended on for a number of different uses. Camels are a nomad's transport. Their meat is eaten, their wool is worn, and camel milk is a food staple in rural Mongolia. Despite the spread of modernity, in a region this remote, an estimated 40% of Mongolians still live as nomadic herders. As the day draws to a close, a local herder appears on the horizon, his Bactrian camels close at his heels. His wife, Sagar, has been waiting for him. All their camels except one are female, and nearly all have babies waiting for them at the homestead. Most of these were born in April and still rely on their mother's milk, but are already the height of a man. They're kept apart from their mothers during the day to ensure they don't exhaust their mother's milk supply. This is what Sagar and her family rely on. But as the mothers and babies are reunited, she must hurry before the mothers are drained by their impatient babies. While Sagar milks the camels one by one, her husband, Chalong, keeps an eye on the herd, making sure no one's behaving badly. She works quickly. She and her family have been doing this every day since she was a child, so she knows exactly how to handle her animals. Once collected, she takes the milk inside the ger. This traditional style of housing has been used for centuries and has everything the family needs. Sagar adds the fresh milk to a vat of soured milk, which has been fermenting with natural bacteria for several days. Once they have been thoroughly mixed, she turns her attention to the next stage. Amazingly, Sagar is going to use her camel's milk to make alcohol. She heats up the soured milk mixture on the fire until it's almost reached boiling point. A metal cylinder acts as a distillation tank, which she blocks off the top with a bowl of very cold water. Even the rope she uses is made from camel wool. As the soured milk evaporates, it cools on the bowl above and is collected into a bucket suspended inside the structure. This yields around 2 liters of shubat camel milk alcohol. These camels are much more than a livelihood. They are a way of life, almost as important to their family as their own children. Their camels make life in Mongolia possible and have been essential for humans eking out an existence here since the very beginning. The Bactrian camel is the largest wild animal in the Gobi. But hiding amongst the hardy grasses of the desert floor, it's possible to find one of the smallest. Gerbils are one of the most popular mammals in the pet trade. But these peculiar little animals evolved and originate from right here on the grassy fringes of the world's deserts. Because of their habitat, these rodents were once known as desert rats. But that would be an unfair comparison to these tiny sand specialists. Great gerbils are the most sociable species of their kind, living together in large family groups. They are also the largest gerbils in the world and would make a perfect snack for any airborne assassins. Out here, hiding places are hard to come by. Instead, they've developed a number of anti-predator techniques. Their sandy-colored backs blend in with the desert floor from above. And they have a large middle ear, which allows them to hear low-frequency sounds like the ominous flap of a predator's wings. Large bulbous eyes allow them an open field of vision. And the tufts of hair on the end of their tails acts as a predator decoy. If all else fails, they can always dive headfirst into a network of burrows. The tunnels lead to food stores, nesting areas, and escape routes, running almost 2 meters deep and sprawling almost 8 meters across. For now, the coast is clear, and this male can get on with the endless task of filling the burrow's food stores and his stomach. He'll spend almost every waking minute collecting seeds, roots, and shrubs, gnawing everything he can get his paws on at an alarming rate, and hoarding the rest. Gerbils are omnivores, but prefer a vegetarian way of life. But others in the Gobi are nothing but cruel when it comes to catching dinner. Mongolia's desert is home to a barbaric killer. Sand wasps. This gang of wasps are digging a nest, or perhaps we should call it a grave. Sand wasps predate on other insects. Underneath this female's body, she clasps tight to an unlucky blowfly, paralyzed with venom, but still alive. She's adding a tunnel to the burrow where she will bury her prey, ready to be eaten alive by her unborn larvae. But someone's beaten her to it. A Mongolian race runner lizard has moved in while she was away. And these wasps are unwelcome. He headbutts her out of his way. But she's persistent. These sand wasps are thugs and won't quit until he's been evicted. Finally, he gives in. life is hard for a lizard in the Gobi. If being evicted by a bug wasn't enough, a flock of chukar partridge are also on the prowl. These birds get their name from their distinctive call. Their alert and vocal nature means they act as sentinels for the neighboring wildlife. Most of their day is preoccupied by scavenging for food amongst the sand and rocks of the Gobi. Their buff coloration helps them seamlessly merge into the background. Luckily for local lizards, the adults here are vegetarians, feeding on the leaves and seeds of tough grasses that grow year-round. They even eat grit, which helps grind and crush food in a special part of their stomach called a gizzard. And there's plenty of grit here in the Gobi. It's summertime in the Gobi Desert. At its peak, temperatures can reach over 40 degrees Celsius. This is a land of extremes, where the temperature can rapidly shift 30 degrees centigrade within a single day. Any animal surviving in this harsh environment has come fully equipped with an abundance of adaptations in order to exist. Bactrian camels are experts in preserving water. They can endure a phenomenal 9-degree increase in internal body temperature before even beginning to sweat, saving them 5 liters of water a day. All this water saving means camel dung is much drier than the average cow pat. In this barren desert, piles of poo are far and wide, so for one of the desert's dwellers, there's no use being choosy. Despite the dryness, this fresh pile of dung still counts as a feast for a passing dung beetle. Capable of pushing dung balls up to 50 times their own weight, makes these mighty little beetles the strongest animal in the world relative to their size. As long as it belongs to a herbivore, dung beetles aren't fussed. They have been around so long their ancient ancestors used to feast on dino dung. After all that hard work, this determined beetle certainly deserves the banquet awaiting inside. They dine on nutritious juices full of delicious microorganisms. This opportunistic appetite has meant dung beetles have conquered almost every continent. Unfortunately, the Asiatic wild ass hasn't managed the same feat of world domination as the prolific dung beetle. The range of Asiatic wild ass has dramatically decreased, with only a few strongholds left. These are members of the horse family. Mongolia's subspecies are the most widespread of their kind and have been around for over 40,000 years. But their numbers have dwindled, and they are now rarely seen in the Gobi. Over 6,000 kilometers away in the Middle East, their cousins have been reintroduced. In Jordan and all over their range, they are desert specialists living on scarce plant life. finding water is a constant challenge. But across the world, their territory is being claimed by livestock, and their habitats are becoming increasingly fragmented. In Mongolia, domestic cattle are taking their only food resources. And to make matters worse, an estimated 20% of the population are poached every year for food. The hardy constitution of the wild ass is what ensured their success in times gone by. But to survive in Mongolia now, they'll need the cooperation of humans. Recent changes to the law means that many Mongolians are now returning to their nomadic roots. If humans can find a way to work with nature and share, rather than dominate resources, there is room for both in the Gobi Desert. On the furthest western edge of Mongolia's Gobi Desert, the sandy plateau gives way to the Altay mountain range. This mountain range also serves as a divider between Mongolia and 3 other countries: Russia to the north, China to the south, and Kazakhstan to the west. The Asiatic ibex is the master of these mountains. They are oversized wild goats, living in groups of up to 20. These animals are built for a life at great heights. Their hooves act like suction cups on the rock, meaning they are always firmly anchored, no matter the incline. A stocky build provides them with a huge lung capacity, a crucial adaptation for climbing these steep cliffs. At these altitudes, at the Gobi's margin, winter arrives early. For these ibex, it's a sign of exciting things to come. A young male tastes the air to see if any of the females are ready to mate. He's sexually mature for the first time, and he's definitely new to the game. And the females are having none of it. Males reach maturity at the age of 5, but it will probably be years before he sees any action. The older and bigger males, weighing over 100 kilos, are the real Casanovas and have total control of their harems. Their coats get darker in time for the mating season, a social indicator if their giant horns weren't enough. This young male would normally have to fight to earn the right to approach any female. But today, the boss doesn't seem that bothered. He knows that the females are not ready yet. So he lets the boys embarrass themselves. It's a few weeks before the females entertain any serious contenders. And by now, the herd is assembled, ready for the biggest event of the year. The mature males live alone or in bachelor groups for most of the year, and join the females in time for the rutting season. Scratching his impressive horns on a bush is enough to assert his dominance and maybe put him in the mood. He follows the female, indicating his interest. sniff and a lick of the air detects whether she's fertile. She plays hard to get, but he's in with a chance. It might be a quickie, but it counts. Now he has to ensure it's only his seeds that take root. Fighting off other suitors will ensure his legacy remains intact for the next generation. As the effects of global warming are increasingly felt worldwide, the Gobi is expanding its claim on Central Asia. The Altay Mountains are the only thing that stands between the Gobi and the West. But to the south, the Gobi advances unchallenged. Every year, the desert smothers an area larger than Yosemite National Park. For millions of years, the animals of the Gobi Desert have become accustomed to the hardships of life here. Adapting to a life with little water and the extreme flux of the desert temperatures. It seems the limitations of life in this hostile desert have advanced wildlife to the extremes of evolution. The Gobi is home to animals who are masters of their kind. But the pressure of existing in such an unforgiving landscape has always meant the odds of survival balance on a knife's edge. Mongolia is a nation of nomads, and the success of humans here is dependent on nature. They now have a common cause. With compromise, the Gobi will continue to be an unlikely haven for remarkable creatures, all eking out an existence beneath an endless blue sky. In the far east of Asia lies a legendary land, Mongolia. Here, over millions of years, powerful forces have forged some of the most dramatic landscapes on Earth. From one of the continent's hottest deserts to towering mountain worlds and the vastest grassland that has ever existed. It takes a special breed with bold ambition and a pioneering spirit to tame this fabled place and call it home. The largest grassland on Earth, one of the last true wildernesses. The immense Eurasian steppe stretches almost 1/5 of the way around our planet. A harsh place with severe winters and ferocious summers. A cycle of abundance, destruction, and rebirth that affects every creature who lives here. With just over 3 million inhabitants, Mongolia is one of the most sparsely populated countries in the world. These are vast open plains, immense spaces. But any feeling of emptiness is an illusion. It is full of unique and surprising creatures, and is the scene for some of the biggest migrations on Earth. The upper reaches of the steppe are on the same latitude as Paris. But in winter, it's one of the most bitter and hostile places on the planet. The cold wind blowing from Russia regularly brings temperatures 40 degrees below zero. And they often bring with them snowstorms. Prehistoric shapes emerge from the whiteout. Przewalski horses. These are the last true wild horses on Earth. They are hardy animals, but this herd is fighting a losing battle against the blizzard. They need to find cover, and quickly. Knowing where to go takes great wisdom and experience. The eldest female is the leader of the herd. She's taking them down a trail she knows could save them. Relief at last. She's guided them to a narrow valley where they are sheltered from the wind. But even down here, it's bitterly cold. The horse's thick coat can only insulate them to a degree. So they must have another way to conserve energy. They huddle together, maximizing their barrier against the biting cold, and wait for the storm to pass. For Przewalski horses, it takes teamwork and tenacity to survive in these inhospitable lands. The next day, several hundred tons of snow now cover the herd's territory. Their only food now lies buried beneath 60 centimeters of snow. Pushing through thick drift is hard work, and the horses are getting weaker. Their only reward is a mouthful of withered grass. This male seems to have given up. But the magpies won't let him rest. Although it looks as if they're provoking him, they are in fact picking off his parasites. For the magpies, the horses are like walking larders. While this is good for the horses, it's causing some irritation. Przewalski's horses live in small family groups that consist of a stallion, a few mares, and their foals. The young are almost weaned. but they still go to Mum for comfort. This stallion always stays at the back of the herd to keep an eye on his mares. He knows there are other stallions nearby. His stance signals that he is not to be messed with. But in looking for food, the mares have wandered into a neighboring herd. Another male. Recognizable by his battle-worn, stumpy tail, he is the mightiest stallion in the valley. He barges in, trying his luck. But our stallion doesn't need to worry. A clear slap of the tail signals that the mares have no interest in jumping ship, yet. Message received, at least for now. Stallions have a few more months to fight over the females before they are ready to mate. Winter is slowly releasing its grip. Warmer winds arrive from the south, and within a few short weeks, the steppe starts transforming. The receding ice and snow reveals an immense flat plain. As the temperature rises, the melting snow provides vital moisture for a single, remarkable type of plant: grass. Grasslands exist wherever there is little rain, but not enough to sustain forests. Given the right conditions, grasses have the extraordinary power to grow from first shoots to flower in a matter of days. The steppe is magically transformed. At last, there is color and the chance for new life. Mongolian gazelles. More than 1 million are thought to live here, chasing the green grass. Most of the time, these nomads are scattered over the steppe. But once a year, they come together to give birth to their young. Most of the babies are born within just a 4-day window. Until they can stand, the babies must stay hidden in the grass. They should be safe, as long as they stay still. There are enough pairs of eyes to keep a watch. But the clock is ticking, and the herd will soon be moving on in its search for new grass. Their lanky legs are a sign that they are built for life on the move. These babies will now start the nomadic lifestyle that they share with most animals on the steppe. Not before they're suddenly stopped. A fire. Panic spreads through the herd. With nothing standing in its way, the fire propagates devastatingly fast. Thankfully, Mongolian gazelles are born to run. Speeding at more than 60 kilometers an hour, most outrun the fire. not all have made it. And for the survivors, the fire has turned their precious grassland to ash. But the grasses are not dead. Their underground stems are unharmed, and they will soon regrow. At only a few days old, these gazelles have started a journey that will last their whole lives, forever chasing the grass on which they depend. But the steppe isn't only the stage for these immense gatherings. It also caters for the smallest of creatures. For the animals living within grasses, such as this female harvest mouse, they are as big and tall as a rainforest. Climbing grass is a lot more difficult than climbing trees. The shoots just won't stay still. Her prehensile tail acts like a fifth limb. So she is as agile on a blade of grass as a monkey climbing in the trees. She is carefully selecting grass blades, each trimmed to the correct length. Together with her mate, they are creating something very special. It's a tough bit of gardening, but worth it. Grasses are the ideal place to build a miniature treehouse, fit for a harvest mouse. It's a centerpiece, one of the most intricate structures in the animal kingdom. And it's ready for some very important arrivals. There are now new mouths to feed. These babies need to grow up fast if they want to take advantage of the grasses while they are still there. But it's not only the grasses that provide a home. In the northernmost part of Mongolia lies the most surprising habitat, completely unrecognizable from the rest of the country. Forests. Larch and pine cover the shallow hills. The northern Mongolian forests are a crossroad for seasonal visitors and Arctic specialists. But they are so much more. These forests are part of the taiga, an immense belt of forests that stretches through several countries and covers over 10 million square kilometers, containing 1/3 of all the trees on Earth. It's an ideal place to hide for some very secretive creatures. A family of wild boar and their young piglets. Wild boar are thought to have one of the largest distributions on the planet. They are the ancestors of most domestic pig species. For them, food is there for the taking. It's just a matter of finding it. To survive, they follow their nose, among the best in the natural world. They will eat almost anything they unearth. but they particularly love roots and nuts. The piglets start imitating the adults at a very young age. Even if, for now, they are mostly getting in the way. The stripes are a good camouflage in the dappled light of the forest. They will lose them at around 3 months, when they are old enough to find food on their own. Wild boar are social animals, sometimes gathering together in groups of several dozen individuals. Staying together may make it easier to find food, but there is another reason for group living. More ears to listen out for danger. Wolves. They're coming back under the cover of the trees after a night of hunting. Wolves have to roam long distances in search of food to sustain their families. The grey wolf range extends the whole width across the Eurasian continent. But the threat of being shot is forcing wolves to retreat to the trees to raise their families. These cubs are now 4 weeks old. They have made it out of the den for the first time. Having lived in near complete darkness until now, their little eyes are just getting used to the light and to the numerous obstacles around the den. They are growing quickly and are always hungry. Their mother will soon start going back out to hunt and disappear for several hours every day, so they need to get their fill, and fast. They will entirely depend on every adult member of this pack for another 5 months, until they can make themselves useful on a hunt. But the wolves' prey are being overhunted, and it is a struggle to feed the whole family. Only half of these grey wolf pups will survive to adulthood. The vast Eurasian steppe. It extends some 8,000 kilometers. From Romania, through Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, China, and Mongolia. This huge belt of grassland is bounded in the north by the forests of Russia, and in the south, the land becomes increasingly dry, fading into deserts like the Gobi. But it isn't a continuous band. Huge mountain ranges dissect it throughout its range. And the Altay mountains split it in two. The eastern side of the steppe envelops Mongolia, and it is a land of extremes. Summer temperatures can soar to 40 degrees Celsius, while in the winter, temperatures can plunge to 45 below zero. It's a tough place to survive. but it can also be an oasis for some species found nowhere else on Earth. Summer is here. And there are new arrivals on the steppe. After almost a year of pregnancy, one of the Przewalski mares has had a foal. At only a few days old, he stays near Mum for security, but will very soon pluck up the courage to explore his surroundings, unless he abandons himself to his favorite hobby. But this foal must stay vigilant. His mother will come into season again very soon. She'll attract testosterone-fueled stallions that could trample him without a second look, not knowing that he is in fact a very precious offspring. Intensive hunting and overgrazed pastures drove Przewalski's horses to the brink of extinction in the 1960s. But they were saved from disappearing completely just before it was too late. Captive-bred populations were released onto the steppe, and they are now thriving. It's one of the most successful reintroductions in conservation history. Mother and foal are part of a 7-strong band, always on the move, searching for food and water. Now, in the summer, fresh grass is hard to find, and it doesn't provide enough moisture for the horses. So this herd needs its elders to guide them to the remaining pools of standing water. This knowledge is essential to the herd's survival. Once they've had their fill, it's time for a little grooming. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Not only does it feel good and reinforces friendships, it could even be the beginning of a love story. With their ancient origins and miraculous recovery, Przewalski horses are the ultimate symbol of hope on these vast plains. As Mongolia's dry season takes hold, food becomes increasingly thin on the ground in the Eurasian steppe. It's bad news for one of the most iconic and endangered animals of the steppe, whose entire existence revolves around grass. The Saiga antelope. Saigas live in some of the harshest climates in the world, often migrating long distances between summer and winter pastures. At the end of the summer, the grasses on which they feed become so dry that they also need to cover a lot of ground every day to visit fresh water sources. The saiga's unique physiology is ideally suited to the steppe. This bizarrely shaped nose helps them filter out the dust whipped up by the wind in the sweltering heat. The wobbly appendage is also very useful in the winter, as it warms up the cold air before it enters the lungs. But it really gets in the way of drinking. The saigas aren't the only ones here. This female marsh harrier has taken a break from hunting to get a drink. For a short moment, she is no threat to the smallest of visitors. Everybody has learned to share this precious resource. These saigas have taken to the deepest part of the river. The water is fresher there, and it's also easier to keep out of reach of predators. Saigas are naturally nervous. And easily startled. But luckily, faster than a racehorse. This time, only a very thirsty young fox. It's clear she hasn't eaten for days, but would only be a danger for the saiga's young. Crisis averted. But the saigas are right to be nervous. The night may bring out much larger predators than this harmless fox. The cover of darkness also allows for some tiny creatures to make a discreet appearance. These are steppe lemmings. The smallest lemmings in the world. Barely heavier than a AA battery. These energetic rodents are constantly looking for seeds and roots. Steppe lemmings live in small groups, consisting of a female, a male, and their last offspring. They seldom come out in the open. It's a dangerous world. But there is safety in numbers. More eyes and ears on lookout. Any unusual sound or movement, and everybody disappears. Underground. The family scamper down along extensive runway systems that they have dug out. Even in the complete darkness, they know exactly where to go. They have warm nests and chambers in their burrows that they line with soft grasses. But there is no time to hibernate. They will continue feeding on every bit of plant they can get their paws on over winter. Come spring, if the conditions are right and there is plenty of food, this pair will start breeding again and could have up to 6 litters in 1 year. This is how lemming populations can boom so dramatically from one year to the other. Ultimately, life on the steppe depends on the turn of the seasons and what resources it brings to animals as small but ingenious as the lemmings. Daybreak on Mongolia's steppe. Across the Asian grasslands, animals wake up to the buzzing of the last summer insects. The saiga, a relic of the Ice Age. They once roamed across Europe and North America, alongside mammoths and saber-toothed cats. But these antelope have had a catastrophic population decline over the last few years. Since the early 1990s, over 95% of the saiga population has disappeared. They hold the sad record of being one of the fastest declining mammals in the world. They once roamed the steppe in their millions, but they now only remain in small pockets of grasslands in Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Mongolia. They are incredibly tough survivors, but in this intense heat, they favor a gentle pace. A male saiga, recognizable by his red horns. They are translucent, so colored by the blood running through them. It's not quite the mating season yet, but he's keeping an eye on the other males approaching his harem. If the subtle signs don't work, then they are put back in their place the hard way. And it isn't just him. Tempers are flaring all around the water. Males need to make the most of it. Many of them will only breed once. They live life in the fast lane. With the water source dwindling, it is time for these saigas to move on. Despite having made it through the ages, saigas are vulnerable and could soon become a distant memory if their habitat isn't protected for future generations. The Mongolian steppe is a delicate yet surprising environment. There is a lot more to these grasslands than first meets the eye. It is a scarred landscape, forged by an active geological past. Canyons. They lacerate the steppe, but bring an essential lifeline through the rivers that erode them. The steppe is also home to some ancient volcanoes. Surrounded by its lava field and rising up to 2,200 meters, the famous Horgo Ul crater dominates this landscape. At 200 meters wide and about half as deep, it's an almost perfect cone. This extinct volcano's last known eruption was 8,000 years ago, and it was the last ever active volcano in Mongolia. But its destructive influence can still be seen all around it. Poplar trees struggle to grow among the boulders of basalt rock. They are symbols of how life thrives in Mongolia, no matter how harsh the conditions. It's the beginning of winter on one of the highest plains of Mongolia, Arkhangai. Even now, life is hard and the air thin. By mid-November, the hills are blanketed in snow and it's already bitterly cold. Like almost everywhere in Mongolia, the unforgiving climate forces wildlife and people to keep moving to find enough to survive. Despite Arkhangai's harsh conditions, grass survives here in sufficient quantities to support the highest of grazers, who sometimes travel several kilometers in one day looking for food. The yak. With altitudes in Arkhangai reaching almost 3,700 meters, yaks are highly valued here. They can use pastures that cannot be reached by any other livestock. They are well adjusted to the hardships of this terrain. Their coat is thick, and they have a very low number of sweat glands, which helps conserve body heat. Yaks are the 4x4 of the animal world. Their legs are short, and their broad hooves make them perfectly adapted to walking through the snow. These are descendants of the wild yak, a fearsome and aggressive creature that originated in the Himalayas. With their calves, though, they are the most tender of mums. These calves are only 6 months old, but they are already as hardy as their parents. They too will have to learn to survive in the most hostile of environments. Once domesticated, the yak is the most useful of livestock, providing their owners with transport, food, wool for clothes and tents, and manure for fuel. One family has set up camp in this valley for the winter. Ishchala and her daughter, Antux, are here to graze their yaks on the meager pickings of the Arkhangai province. It's time for the yaks to be herded back to camp for the night. She's only 16 years old, but one day Antux might take over the farm. So she needs to learn how to round up the animals. But yaks are stubborn. Often, they are the ones dictating which path to take. And sometimes, they also decide on the destination. Antux needs to look confident. Otherwise, the yaks won't hesitate to take over. But the work doesn't end there. It's early morning. Back at camp, the yak cows need to be milked. They've been separated from their calves overnight, so there's plenty to collect. The yak's delicate nature means that they tend to only tolerate one person milking them. So Antux can't take on this burden. A yak cow is brought through and her legs are temporarily tied, so she doesn't even think of kicking. Antux knows exactly which calf to release. He's allowed to suckle for only a moment to stimulate the milk. The long skirt of hair makes it impossible to see, so Ixcha'la needs to be very intuitive. She knows every cow's quirks and sensitivities. One wrong move, and the animal could send her bucket flying. The trick is to be quick and confident. The cows are incredibly impatient. Ixcha'la will take half of the milk the cows produce. The rest is for the calves. Yak milk is one of the creamiest of all. At this time of year, it can be up to 12% fat. It's a vital resource that the yak's herders completely depend on in these remote lands. Yaks have made living here possible. It's unlikely that humans would have survived in these high plateaus without this formidable creature. The steppe, an infinite grassland, a place of feast and famine, where the seasons run fast and furious. At its peak, the steppe provides the stage for one of the greatest gatherings of wildlife found anywhere on Earth. And is home to some of the hardiest animals on the planet. The creatures who, against all odds, have made a living in this hostile landscape. But this magical land is under threat. The steppe's unique wildlife now has to coexist with an ever-increasing livestock. Overgrazing and climate change are continuously degrading the grasslands, driving its grass specialists to ever-shrinking pockets of land. But all is not lost. Some have made incredible recoveries. and have become the ultimate symbol of hope. For this hugely precious environment. Mongolia, a remote wilderness locked in Asia's heartland. Trapped on a mountain plateau between the Himalayas and Siberia. Mongolia is a kingdom above the clouds. Every season in this vast and windswept landscape brings challenges that only the most adaptable and intrepid creatures can overcome. This is a country where determination is a necessity. And survival is never guaranteed. The Altay mountain range, a jagged scar running the length of Mongolia's western corner, a divider between this nation and all those beyond. These mountains are unexplored, unforgiving, and wildly unpredictable. But here, a few amazing animals continue to exist against the odds, becoming masters of adaptation. The punishing climate has forced the wildlife of the Altay Mountains to be tougher than most. For Mongolia's creatures, existing in the Altay is brutal, and survival is nothing short of extraordinary. Mongolia's Altay Mountains are a hostile habitat for any animal, humans included. But the local people here have an unusual ally. These mountains are home to Mongolia's eagle hunters. Harnessing the hunting prowess of golden eagles has made life possible for people in these mountains. This is a falconry tradition dating back almost 6,000 years, originating from ancient Kazakh techniques. For centuries, golden eagles have provided the nomadic community with food during the frigid winter months. This female is Akpashak, meaning white hail, and she's as wild and unruly as her name might suggest. She was taken from the wild as a chick and raised by a single handler. Despite being domesticated, her natural instincts run strong, and she will be a formidable hunter. Only females are selected as they are larger and more successful hunters than their male counterparts. Each eagle is paired exclusively to one hunter. She will only answer to his voice. Today, she is being trained to catch moving prey. There's nothing stopping her leaving, but life with humans is mutually beneficial. A lure made from fox pelts is trailed along the ground. The movement and calls made by the bakucha are meant to stimulate Akpashak's inner killer. Despite her hunting abilities, catching prey is still a challenge, and in the wild, golden eagles have a success rate of just 20%. A perfect takeoff, but she's misjudged the distance. She's young and impatient and gives up easily. But the appeal to attack a moving target is just too irresistible for this natural-born hunter. And this time, she is right on track. Reaches out to the lure with her talons extended. On a fake fox, her tenacious grip is an inconvenience for her patient handler. He uses dinner as a distraction. She's done well, but a real fox will be a lot faster and very unpredictable. But there's plenty of time to perfect her craft. She'll spend a few more years with nomads before she's encouraged to rejoin the wild. By then, she will be sexually mature and more than ready to hunt for herself alone. The bond between eagle and handler is so strong that when this day comes, he will have to hide to stop her from following him home. While these eagles may be trained, they will certainly never be tamed. This is a sentiment echoed in the environment. The Altay Mountains are the product of a continental collision between Asia and India. Over 350 million years in the making. The same forces that built the Altai are also responsible for the Himalayas. Foundations aren't the only thing these mountain ranges have in common. Mongolia's punishing climate has been wearing down these mountains ever since their creation. One day, they'll flatten them. The process isn't always gentle. Landslides and rockfalls in the Altai are common. Wind, rain and ice work against the Altai's mountainsides, finding weaknesses and tearing them apart. Most of these hills are made up of granite, a rock forged under incredible temperatures and pressures. These are some of the hardest and heaviest on Earth. They rain down the hillsides of the Altai Mountains, destroying anything and everything in their path. As the dust settles, the mountains fall silent again. But the creatures of the Altai never drop their guard. Life in these mountains is anything but predictable. Winter is slowly settling on the high peaks of the Altai Mountains. despite the unforgiving terrain. For Argali sheep, this is no cause for concern. They move seasonally between the higher and lower altitudes of the Altai Mountains, roaming up to 20 kilometers each day. They are built for a hard life of endless movement. With the males standing at over a meter and weighing more than twice the average man, these are the biggest wild sheep in the world. This heft is put to good use at this time of year. It's the rutting season for these heavyweight warriors. Females trail a seductive scent, indicating their readiness to mate. For the males, this aroma fuels an insatiable urge. A series of battles determines who will have the right to mating privileges with the females. First, they measure each other up, an Argali sheep version of weighing in. And then they're ready for the real test. The fight is on. Horns, weighing over 20 kilos, clash with a force 8 times the strength needed to crush a human skull. This intense combat would be enough to give most animals brain damage. The sound echoes for several kilometers around the Altai Mountains. The losers are chased down the hillside. They've lost their shot at mating this year. For the winners, the females are primed and waiting. While the Argali sheep are given away by the sound of horns locking, hidden in the fractured rock face of Asia's mountains, one silent creature blends in with the background. These big cats are one of the rarest in the world. But the cliffs of the Altai mountain range are one of their strongholds, home to over 1,000 of these elusive animals. Snow leopards are an iconic species throughout Asia's mountains, occupying nearly 2 million square kilometers across 12 countries. They live solitary lives, roaming home territories as large as 500 square kilometers. But this female isn't alone. At 1 year old, her cub is nearly as big as her, but is still very dependent on his mother for food. Prey is increasingly hard to come by in these hills. The pair haven't eaten in days. The pressure to provide is mounting. Nearly 30% of cubs won't make it to adulthood. But like every animal here, this snow leopard was born to raise survivors. She's a skilled hunter, able to kill prey up to 3 times her own weight. And she's willing to take risks. Leaving him alone at the den, she sets out in search of food. She might be gone for a couple of days. The snow leopard is perfectly adapted to this treacherous environment. At almost a meter long, her thick tail aids her in balancing on the perilous rock face. long hind legs and shorter forelimbs allow for greater agility. And huge paws help her navigate patches of snow and ice, as well as grip onto ledges. She scales the rock face with ease, covering huge distances in a matter of hours. Back at the den, her cub is getting to grips with the principles of hunting. It will be a little while before he's as good as his mother, but this play is essential in honing his skills. After the winter, he will become fully independent, and he'll need to aim a lot higher than a magpie. It's not just the cub that relies on a successful hunt. There are other creatures here who are always eager to inherit leftovers. The cinereous vulture is one of the largest birds of prey in the world. It's arguably also one of the ugliest. These brutish birds weigh up to 14 kilos. The ones found in Asia are 10% bigger than their European counterparts. Normally solitary creatures, they've congregated together today to fight over a carcass. It seems beggars can't be choosers in the Altai, and here, nearly everyone's a beggar. But the cinereous vulture is boss of them all. They dominate the scene, hissing and grunting to assert their claim over the rotting meat. This posturing is unusual in vultures. They bend low and lift specialized breast feathers. They are nothing short of bird bullies. Cinereous vultures are carrion specialists, so unfortunately these kinds of meets and greets are pretty common. They have no need for table manners. When they finally get close to the food, they tear up the carrion with powerful beaks. They're strong birds, able to break ribs to get to the meat inside. It's a grisly end to an already hard life in the Altai. In Mongolia's Altai Mountains, a formidable creature patrols her territory from the sky. The golden eagle is a majestic raptor. This species has conquered over 3 continents and has one of the biggest ranges of any eagle in the world. Across the globe, their overall abilities in flight are unparalleled by any other eagle. Able to dive at speeds over 300 kilometers an hour, this bird is the second fastest flyer in the world and a silent killer. She looks for prey on the wing. She'll go for anything as small as a gerbil or as big as a fox, attacking from above at breakneck speed. They'll never see it coming. For one cautious creature in the foothills, the prospect of meeting a golden eagle is a waking nightmare. The Pallas's pika is an inauspicious inhabitant of the Altai Mountains. On first glance, the pika looks very much like their close relative, the rabbit. But unlike their more cumbersome cousins, pika only weigh as much as a hamster. A perfect snack for an aerial assassin. These skittish creatures can be seen dotted around the sun-facing slopes all day, emerging at dawn and disappearing again at dusk. In the middle of the day, a young pika will sit basking like this for hours. With their dark, sandy camouflage fur, it would be easy to mistake one for a rock. Movement is their main giveaway, so they try and keep it to a minimum out here in the open. But it's not always an option. Pika don't hibernate over winter, and as the cold weather approaches, their main food source is dying back. Collecting grass in late November means running the gauntlet. The golden eagle's eyesight is 5 times better than a human's, making a pika only the size of a pebble, easy pickings from over 1 kilometer away. He'll have to risk his life if he wants to eat well. But luckily, he has reliable neighbors. Gerbils. In this little corner of the Altai, pika and gerbils seem to live harmoniously, even sharing resources. But this isn't totally selfless sharing. There is an advantage to teaming up. The threat of a predator initiates a 2-part alarm system. As well as whistles, gerbils stamp their feet to warn anyone underground that danger is near. This isn't a behavior that pikas have picked up, but they almost certainly know what it means. If his neighbors are relaxed, it's all the assurance this male needs to summon the courage. Roots and tubers are worth the effort of excavating. They're rich in nutrients and saturated with water. A rare commodity in these parts. Digging is a distraction, so he moves quickly. Once he finds what he's looking for, he runs back to the safety of his burrow and quickly wolfs down his meal. He always eats near the burrow entrance, ready to dive inside in the event of danger. It doesn't pay to take more risks than necessary around here. She's a sniper, honing in on a target. Mongolia's Altai Mountains run like a fracture along the country's western edge. The jagged mountain ridges take their name from the local language, meaning golden. For thousands of years, the Earth has been trying to return these peaks to the ground. Even hard granite can't avoid the grip of nature. Orange and grey lichens sprawl across the rock surfaces. They are indicators of clean air, rich in oxygen. These aren't actually plants, but algae and fungi working symbiotically. Over 1,000 different types thrive in Mongolia, but these innocuous little organisms are actually parasites. The lichen is not decorating these rocks, it's digesting them. They leave behind small traces of soil, which provides an anchor for roots and nutrients for plants. They are pioneer organisms in a hostile habitat. And no matter how overlooked, they will one day help level these mountains. Nature here is certainly determined. It has to be. In the Altay Mountains, if the conditions of life are harsh, then the realities of life after death are no improvement. This Corsac fox could have died from exposure just as easily as an attack from another predator. Even their thick fur can't make them immune to nightly temperatures as low as -20. Death is a common occurrence in these hills. But for wildlife, this is no tragedy. In fact, death is a banquet not to be missed. A much larger carcass, just a few kilometers away, has attracted visitors. The first to appear at the scene are nearly always magpies. They are nature's morticians. Across the world, these birds hold an almost mythical status. Their presence is steeped in superstition. In the West, magpies are often considered a bad omen, but in Mongolia, they are seen as having control over the weather and are revered as wise creatures. And at least in one respect, Mongolia has the magpie accurately sussed. They are incredibly intelligent and curious creatures, known to use tools and the only animal other than mammals to be able to recognize itself in a mirror. They are certainly smart enough not to miss an opportunity. If no one else comes to claim the carcass, they will eat until only bones are left. A few days later, and it's no longer possible to tell what this poor animal once was. But it's not just dead creatures these cunning birds will pick on. Red foxes are just as wily as magpies and can be found all over these mountains. Red foxes compete with magpies for scraps of carrion, so it's no wonder they're not on friendly terms. Red foxes are one of the most widely distributed mammals in the world, able to adapt to a diverse range of habitats. But that doesn't mean they're immune to the challenges of life in the Altai. At this time of year, their coats are extremely thick to protect them from the biting temperatures. Lifting her nose into the air, she tries to catch the scent of nearby prey on the breeze. But it's not her strongest sense. Red foxes have incredible hearing. Unlike many animals, they can even hear their prey digging underground. A necessary survival skill in these hills. Mongolia's Altai Mountains are home to shrinking glaciers as temperatures in the region increase every year. But vast sheets of ice once dominated this landscape and even created some of the biggest floods known to history. Floods of biblical proportions occurred at the end of the last ice age that spilled out as far as the Caspian Sea, over 3,000 kilometers away. They were caused by glaciers and meltwater overspilling and changed the landscape of the western Altay region. Rivers and streams have been carving their way down the mountains for millions of years. Though not quite as extreme today as they once were, as winter subsides, the canyons and crevices in the foothills of the Altay come alive. These mountains are the source of two major rivers, which flow downstream and weave their way across the continent. They are the lifeblood of the Altay, and the only place where trees can grow. The Altay Mountains are home to several species of tree. Poplars, willows, larch, and even elm grow in sporadic patches where they can. Trees cover the Altai's western slopes in Russia. But on Mongolia's eastern foothills, trees are so seldom seen that even stark branches are a rare and sacred sight. It's easy to see why these new buds are a sign of hope and regeneration. Further down the mountains, the volume of water descending from the slopes increases and spills out into wide, shallow streams. The Altay Mountains traverse a border between multiple countries. Their waters are no different. Across the country, high plateau lakes offer sanctuary to migrating birds. Some of them are among the oldest on Earth. As rainfall in Mongolia is so low, most lakes entirely depend on the mountain glaciers that feed them. The meltwater carries nutrient-rich sediment down from the mountains, feeding the lush vegetation. The water's banks come alive with plants and flowers. With the warmer weather, migrant birds who have spent the winter in southern China return here to the mountains to capitalize on the sudden oasis. Stone chats are industrious little animals. They're insect hunters and thrive off the sudden burst of life. In fact, their prey is so abundant, they'll be able to raise several clutches of chicks this season. But it'll be an exhausting few months. The chicks' appetites are insatiable. Catching food is a relentless task for these diligent parents. The nest is an unwoven cup of grass. It's nothing fancy, but it's perfect for this little brood. They'll stay here for 2 weeks until they're ready to fledge. Across Mongolia, creatures of all kinds must work quickly to capitalize on the short summer season. one of the richest wetlands is found in Inner Mongolia. In the local language, these wetlands are known as Swan Lake, a gesture of deference to their elegant seasonal visitors. These nutrient-rich waters attract a whole host of wading birds and waterfowl, migrating here from the four corners of Asia. But it's not just food they're after. For whooper swans, the lush grass is ideal for nesting. In fact, this glacial lake is such a treasure trove that over 20,000 swans are thought to visit these waters. But as these waters are no secret, the popularity of the lake makes things a little cramped, and finding a spot can be tricky. As soon as couples arrive, they need to stake a claim on a nesting patch. There's no beach towel policy here. Swans will get aggressive to defend their chosen spot. With only a few exceptions, swans mate for life. This pair reunite every breeding season. And they are already experienced parents. Cygnets are able to leave the nest only 48 hours after hatching. But these little fluffballs are very vulnerable. So Mum and Dad will look after them for another 3 months before they're ready to migrate to their winter grounds. Almost all of the Altay's creatures descend to the lakeside in the summer season. In Mongolia's barren landscape, these waters are a welcome lifeline. As summer approaches, Argali sheep shed their winter coats and their wool takes on a darker appearance to match their surroundings. It's this time of year that they're able to wander further for food, as Mongolia's Altay hillsides burst into life with delicious plants. It's a seasonal boon, and the Argali waste no time in making the most of it. Living up to the stereotype, they follow each other, traversing across the Altay's rolling plains, grazing sporadically, constantly on the move. Sticking together is also a safety technique. Predators prefer to attack a lone animal. When an Argali sheep is on its own, it often stands motionless in the hope that a hunter might overlook them. But unfortunately, their greatest predators are humans, and not even for their meat. Argali sheep are regularly hunted for sport. Their impressive horns make them a desirable trophy target. It's a sad predicament for iconic animals all over the world. And it wasn't so long ago that Argali sheep shared this in common with almost every other mammal in the mountains. However bleak the picture might be for the permanent residents of Mongolia, creatures on the wing fare much better. Mongolia is a destination for many migratory birds. Demoiselle cranes are the ultimate traveler. At this time of year, they are readying themselves to fly from their wintering grounds in India all the way to their breeding grounds in Mongolia, over 3,000 kilometers away. This is no light-hearted undertaking. The journey will be grueling, sometimes taking a month to complete, and many will die on the way. But they have a few things in their favor. They are the lightest of all cranes, able to fly vast distances without landing to rest or feed. With a wingspan over 1.5 meters wide, they catch updrafts and use thermals to their advantage. They can average over 300 kilometers a day in good conditions. But there's no question that this will be challenging. They must scale the world's highest obstacles. Mountains. Demoiselle cranes reach elevations of up to 8,000 meters in order to cross the Himalayas. But for those that make it, Mongolia is worth the journey. These remote and pristine lakes give the Demoiselle crane the perfect habitat to breed. It's partly to the credit of Mongolia's waters that the population of Demoiselle cranes is now increasing. Mongolia is a nation of nomads. The desolate landscapes and scarce resources mean the only way to survive here is to keep on the move. Mongolian people spend their life in the saddle and move with their livestock. Camels, goats, yaks, and even sheep. At the turn of every season, they must move to a new pasture, often returning to the same sites their relatives have used for generations. Their link to nature is undeniable, and nothing represents this better than an age-old tradition born in the Altay Mountains. Throat singing. Also known as humi, the Mongolian word for throat. This guttural song is one of the world's oldest forms of music. Across the vast and empty steppe, and from the echoing gullies of the Altay mountain range, Mongolia's very landscape is a spectacular stage for their sounds. 3 different indigenous cultures hold a claim to this ancient tradition, shared across an intersection of their territories here in the Altay. Their music is an ode to nature and a message of gratitude to their gods. the gallop of a horse, the flow of a river, and the chattering tones of birdsong. All serve as inspiration for their songs. Hassan Ding has been singing since the age of 7. It's an art that requires as much dedication and practice as opera singing. Throat singers are often accompanied by an equally ancient instrument called a horsehead fiddle, or morin khur. Just like throat singing, it's also closely linked to nature and is used to this day to tame horses. The Mongols' relationship with nature is as powerful today as it has ever been, and is an integral part of their culture and traditions. If Mongolia is a country above the clouds, then the peaks of the sun-soaked Altay Mountains touch the sky. Between their golden summits and the rolling foothills, the wildlife that call these mountains home are no strangers to adversity. Exposed to the elements, living off what little they have, here, the odds of survival are not just stacked against animals. Even plants must cling to opportunity in order to exist. But in these mountains, only those who dare win. The Altai has been a stadium for epic battles. Hunting grounds for elusive predators. The start of a journey for some, and the ending for others. From the bold and the brave to the seldom seen creatures of cunning. Wildlife in Mongolia's Altai Mountains defy the limits of life in Asia's harshest heartland.